With his report, and we'll be back at 6.
From ABC, this is a special edition of World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin tonight with what we believe is the latest news. Late this evening, Baghdad Radio carried an announcement, allegedly from Saddam Hussein himself, ordering his troops to withdraw from Kuwait. He said they should do so in accordance with the Soviet Union's plan for a political settlement of the war, which the president turned down 3 days ago. At the time, the Iraqis had said they would begin to pull out after a ceasefire, which the president rejected. Now, we're not quite sure exactly what all this means, but standing by at the White House is ABC's Britt Hume. How's the White House reacting, Britt?
Well, the White House isn't quite sure what all this means either, Peter. The president was up on Capitol Hill playing paddleball this afternoon when the wire service reports, which is all that the White House says it's seen of these, hit. And he was contacted about it, and his press spokesman, Marlon Fitzwater, said after a conversation with him, and I quote, "We have no contact about this with our government, no authoritative contact with the UN. We don't think there is anything to respond to. The war goes on."
Any inclination to a political settlement, as best you can tell?
Well, Peter, as it happens, I discussed this very kind of a scenario with a senior administration official a little earlier this afternoon. And he told me that if the Iraqis were suddenly to announce that they would withdraw from Kuwait without condition, that the United States would not agree to a ceasefire, but instead would either agree to talk about it, but without stopping the fighting, or it would set up some test that the Iraqis would immediately have to meet to prove that this was legitimate. Failing that, however, there's not going to be any change here.
Okay, Britt, thanks very much. One of the first things, of course, to look forward to are Iraqi tanks turning and going north instead of south. The Iraqi ambassador to the United Nations here in New York said he didn't believe what he was hearing or what he said people were hearing on Baghdad Radio. And the Kuwaiti ambassador to the United States said as far as he was concerned, the Iraqis in Kuwait would have to surrender. There isn't much doubt that they are feeling the pressure. This morning, however, President Bush said there are battles yet to come and casualties to be borne, and how right he was. The air raid sirens wailed in Saudi Arabia after dark, and this time an Iraqi Scud missile did serious damage when it plunged into a U.S. barracks. 12 Americans were killed, 40 are missing, 25 injured. More confirmed dead in Saudi Arabia than in the entire Kuwait theater of operations. In that fighting, only 4 Americans are known to have died. The Marine Commander, General Walter Boomer, says the massive assault should be over in a matter of days, not in weeks. So in very broad terms, here, given what is on the record, is what the military map appears to look like tonight. U.S. Marines are driving towards Kuwait City. On their right, other Marine units, along with troops from Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. Syrian and Egyptian forces to their left. An enormous contingent of American troops called the 7th Corps, with infantry and tanks and helicopters, along with British troops, are sweeping into Iraq itself, trying to get behind Iraq's Republican Guard, which is fanned out all along the Kuwaiti border. And still farther inland, more U.S. and French troops also trying to cut off Iraqi troop concentrations. A huge airborne force, more than 2,000 troops, have dropped inside Iraq by helicopter, and smaller units, maybe special forces and commandos, are said to be operating around and maybe even in Kuwait City itself. The military briefer in Saudi Arabia said this morning that terrorism has been Iraq's only success. We begin with that Scud missile attack on Riyadh tonight. Here's ABC's Sam Donaldson.
It was a tragic chance hit. A portion of a Scud missile, most probably the warhead, crashed directly into a 2-story building housing American service personnel. The building instantly was turned into a flaming wreck, and a serviceman who was standing a few yards away at the time describes the horror of it.
And I took off the roof. I had my mask on. They called all clear. It wasn't a chemical. It was just high explosive. As you can see, it's total. The whole thing's gone.
Ambulances immediately converged on the scene, followed closely by medical evacuation helicopters. Wounded were treated on the spot by medical personnel. The injured taken to nearby hospitals quickly, some even transported by a civilian bus. Outsiders were kept from the compound, but picked up information along the way.
I saw a guy covered in blood up there who had pulled 4 people out.
What was the condition of the people he pulled out?
He said they were dead.
And how did it happen that the Scud hit at all? Shortly after 8:30 in the evening, air raid sirens sounded over the Dhahran Khobar area. An amateur photographer and his wife rushed outside. Watch what he caught on his videotape.
Here we go, Linda. It's coming down.
The U.S. command here in Saudi Arabia says the Scud missile was breaking up in the air by itself, a common occurrence for Scuds these days. Therefore, no Patriot missiles were fired to intercept it. The command says it was scattered debris that fell over the area. Tragically, it appears the debris that fell in the service personnel's compound contained the warhead, and the Scud warhead can contain up to 2,000 pounds of high explosive. Sam Donaldson, ABC News in eastern Saudi Arabia.
And the Iraqis fired 2 more Scud missiles at Israel today. The Iraqis said they were aimed at the Israeli nuclear reactor at Dimona in the Negev desert. Israel says both missiles fell harmlessly in the desert. This very concrete example today of how successful the Allied invasion has been. More than 25,000 Iraqis have now been taken prisoner of war in 2 days. ABC's Bill Redeker follows the war for us.
As they pushed deeper into Iraqi territory today, the troops reported meeting increased opposition. To the east, along the Persian Gulf coast, the Marines, along with Saudis and Kuwaitis, came under artillery fire and withdrew before maneuvering around the attack. To the west, American airborne troops were flown into Iraq in what the Army called the biggest helicopter assault in military history. 4,000 troops reportedly set up a huge base from which attacks will be launched against the Republican Guard. Major Marie Rossi became one of the first 20 women to fly troops and equipment into a combat zone.
We're well deep within the enemy sector, but we're prepared to go further north if need be.
Still farther west, British, American, and French armored units, the heavy tank divisions, moved quickly through southern Iraq. A French official said they had advanced more than 100 miles and captured more than 3,000 prisoners. Field commanders said the destruction of Iraqi armor was significant. 270 tanks destroyed in 2 days. In Riyadh, General Richard Neal abandoned much of the usual military caution in describing the progress of the land war.
And initial reports indicate again tremendous success. The fight goes on. To date, we have employed only a small portion of our total combat power. There is much more to come.
American ships in the northern Gulf continued preparations for an amphibious assault. Officers said the threat of mines in the area had delayed a marine attack on the beaches of Kuwait City.
It's still possible. In fact, we were doing some work last night along the coast in preparation for that kind of thing if we're called to do it. And so it's very much a viable option.
Throughout today, Iraqi prisoners of war surrendered, sometimes in units as large as battalions, to American and Arab forces, testing the military's logistical support. Saudis had to send school buses for some. There is no information on how many Iraqis have died. In some cases, U.S. soldiers perform quick burials for those they've just killed. The military says the land war is ahead of schedule, but it is cautioning against premature optimism. The battle that will test the Allied forces, the major battle with Iraq's Republican Guards, apparently has yet to be fought. Bill Redeker, ABC News, Saudi Arabia.
In a moment, on the ground inside Kuwait with the Saudis. We'll be right back.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by Ford Motor Company.
I've been working for Calumet Farm, soon be 49 years. I've worked for some famous horses.
What gives a certain group of people the ability to consistently do the impossible? Take Calumet Farm. No other farm has ever dominated horse racing like Calumet. Whirlaway, Citation, Halidar. It would take a winner's circle as big as Kentucky to do justice to this amazing stable. When excellence becomes a tradition, there's no end to the greatness, and it doesn't happen only in horse racing. In the auto industry, Ford Motor Company has continually been a leader in innovation, and there's much more to come. Our new modular V8 represents a dramatic improvement in both efficiency and performance. and our new Crown Victoria and Grand Marquis are redefining the concept of luxury ride and handling. America fell in love with Ford in the 80s, and smart money will tell you we're going to be even tougher to beat in the 90s. Ford Motor Company.
Since the ground war began, given the way the information has been coming out, the Saudis and the Egyptian forces have had a very high profile. With most pictures of U.S. forces blacked out for the first day and a half, much of what action the U.S. has been able to see here at home has been with the Arab forces. ABC's Forrest Sawyer has been traveling with them.
For hundreds of Iraqi soldiers, the war ended this way: a 10-kilometer walk across the desert and surrender. U.S. sources say 500 Iraqis surrendered to Saudi troops just this afternoon. And when the prisoners were offered food, they offered proof that Saddam's frontline troops have been broken by U.S. air assault. But it is not the shortage of food and water that drove this lieutenant colonel to join his men in giving up.
I tell you that the moral is not good. And this is the important thing on any army.
The Iraqi troops have been holed up in these shallow sand bunkers for months. A calendar in this commander's bunker tells how long he has been enduring the crisis. At other positions, weapons were abandoned. One U.S. source says much larger caches were found in other locations. Enough, he says, to stop the attack if there had been a will to fight. Egyptian troops were up before dawn, preparing for today's assault, praying, and securing their armored vehicles before heading north to begin the attack. Saudi forces joined the push north, watched over by U.S. liaison officers who have been giving a crash course in how to overcome the Iraqi defenses. 10:40 in the morning, only some artillery is being received. The Saudis have moved past this oil trench erected by the Iraqis and set up a position about a kilometer further. Still some kilometers away, the Iraqi troops themselves. But past the first Iraqi minefield, the Saudi attack stalled, far short of their day's objective. A result, says one U.S. source, of inexperience and too much caution. The Saudi troops have set down for the evening. They're expected to move against the Iraqis at first light. Peter?
Forrest, a couple of questions about the Iraqi prisoners of war. Did you get any sense that they were committed to Kuwait as part of Iraq?
Well, you must remember, of course, Peter, that prisoners tell their captors what they want to hear, but these prisoners said absolutely not. They simply wanted to have peace, and they didn't want to fight their Arab brothers.
Did you see any evidence in their positions of chemical or bacteriological warfare or preparations to defend themselves against it?
There were certainly preparations to defend themselves. All of them were carrying chem suits and gas masks. But I asked several prisoners if there were chemicals on the other side. A couple of them said no, absolutely not. One other said it's up to the division commander, though he did not know if there were actually chemical weapons there.
Forrest Sawyer, thanks very much. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Other Saudi forces have managed to penetrate more deeply into occupied Kuwait. ABC's Jim Hickey is with another group of Saudis, and his report was cleared by the Saudi military.
There is no question that this, the southern part of Kuwait, has been liberated. Saudi Arabian tanks are spread all across the desert, claiming miles of territory won in easy battles in the early hours of the war. Are they beginning to fight back?
I think not, because they don't have, morale. If they don't have a morale, even they have, a modern weapon, they do not do anything.
In the distance, Allied artillery pounded away at Iraqi positions near Kuwait City, while overhead jet fighters dropped more bombs on enemy fortifications. Forward air controllers on the ground said the Iraqis were fighting back.
What are they doing? Well, primarily it's artillery fire.
The Iraqi artillery is not very effective, nor very accurate, even though the front is not far from here. Neither is Kuwait City. These Saudi Arabian tanks and armored personnel carriers, having driven deep inside Kuwait, are now repositioning, getting ready for the final assault on Kuwait City itself. Along the coastal road to Kuwait City, there is plenty of testimony to the fighting and bombardment of Iraqi positions that used to be here. Evidence, too, of the haste in which Iraqi soldiers fled, leaving behind a deadly but not very well hidden minefield. Also moving along the coastal road today, new convoys of Kuwaiti armor returning home. Jim Hickey, ABC News, in Kuwait.
There were reports again today, unconfirmed and even conflicting, about atrocities against civilians in Kuwait. The U.S. military briefer in Saudi Arabia today called it terrorism at its finest hour. But refugees from Kuwait who reached Jordan today said they saw no sign of Iraqi troops actually executing civilians. We'll have more news in a moment.
Ask me what counts most after 40 years in the car business, and I don't have to think twice. 1, the minivans. We invented them. 2, driver's airbags in every car we build in this country. What do we do for an encore? Put them together. Minivans with a driver's side airbag. Nobody else is doing it. You still have to use your seatbelt with a minivan airbag, but it will save lives. A lot of lives.
There's always the fear of your car crashing, burning. Raceway pit's a dangerous place. Emotions run high. Sometimes stress headaches grab you. Pain feels like a rope around my skull. I go for Anacin. Always have.
Anacin relieves stress headache pain better than regular strength Tylenol or regular aspirin.
Stress headache pain is rough, but it's no match for Anacin.
Anacin or aspirin-free Anacin 3. Strong pain relief for today's stress headaches.
In the midst of the storm, it's only natural to wonder where the future will lead. To people who worry about the winds of change today, we'd like to remind you that no adversity lasts forever. And we'll be there with the strength and resources you can count on. Because at Merrill Lynch, we're bullish on the future.
Another set of overall statistics which may indicate just how badly overall the Iraqis are hurting. The Pentagon believes now that 30% of the Iraqi Air Force has either been destroyed or is out of commission in Iran. 45% of the tanks Iraq had deployed in Kuwait and in southern Iraq have been destroyed. 48% of the artillery and 42% of its armored vehicles. What does this mean in terms of the overall war? Joining us this evening are our two military analysts. In Washington, Tony Cordesman, and in Boston, the retired Marine General Bernard Traynor. Tony Cordesman, let me ask you first, we appear to be seeing today that the Iraqis are hurting on a very wide front. As you listen to all the briefings, what and where do they seem particularly vulnerable?
Well, I think, Peter, at this point, again, we have to look at where they started. It would seem that their forward infantry echelon has virtually been shattered, can't fight, much of it is surrendered. Their second echelon of infantry and mechanized divisions have probably also been defeated. Many of those have been surrendered. We look in here and we look at the regular armored, mechanized, and reserve divisions. There's no sign that these have fought steady actions yet, at least in the coast and the center. And we already know that for some time we've been pounding away at the Republican Guards units. If they have a reserve left, and it's not quite clear that they do, it probably consists of a narrow group of screening divisions up there. Everyone else, every other unit, is in very serious trouble, and probably about half of those divisions can no longer fight.
Well, Tony, what happened to these fearsome fortifications everybody talked about before the war? The U.S. has gone through them and will have to go back and deal with the people on them?
I don't think it's going to have to go back at all. It's quite clear that most of those people have surrendered or they've been abandoned. No fortification works if people aren't willing to fight to defend it. And in this case, there has been remarkably little resistance as yet. We can't really even say, although we're not sure, that the divisions we expected to fight hardest, the stiffening divisions behind those forward units, have done any serious fighting.
I was going to ask Bernard Traynor up in Boston whether you, General Traynor, are not surprised by the level of surrenders?
Oh, I am surprised. I really thought there'd be a tough fight going through those defenses, which are quite formidable. But quite obviously, the morale of the Iraqis is very low. And I would suspect, Peter, at this point, given the normal rate of advance of an armored unit, that 7th Corps over on the Western Desert is probably engaged at this point with the Republican Guard units that Tony pointed out that are up in the northwestern part of Kuwait on the Iraqi border.
What can that Republican Guard hope to accomplish now?
Surrender, that's about it. They've got a tremendous force against them. They have been bombarded so heavily in the past. They were particularly singled out by the Air Forces. They can put up limited resistance, but for all practical purposes, the Iraqi Field Army in Kuwait and southern Iraq has been defeated. They can fight piecemeal, and undoubtedly some of the units will, both Republican Guards and some of the regular army, but the cohesion of their defense has been shattered, and they are a defeated army now.
General Trainer, thank you very much. Tony Cordesman. We'll be back in just a moment.
I was an IRS agent for 24 years. You can imagine, people weren't very happy to see me coming. I stopped working for them about 5 years ago. Now I'm a member of AARP, and I volunteer to help people do their taxes through the AARP Tax Aid Program. And you know, I hear something I thought I never would.
Boy, am I glad to see you.
AARP, making a difference.
Ziploc presents Fingerman.
Hi, I'm here to demonstrate a brand new invention. Introducing the new Gripper Zipper from Ziploc. Now the easiest closing bag there is. In fact, you can close it even if you're all thumbs. How you doing? Yes, the zipper is grabbing hold. It's locking. Feel it close the first time, every time. Yeah. Ziploc bags with the new Gripper Zipper. The easiest closing bag there is. Now that was a snap.
To get rid of her gray, my wife can spend 40 minutes. But I discovered this 5-minute hair coloring.
The revolutionary discovery called Just for Men from the leader in men's hair coloring. Simply apply Just for Men and in 5 minutes shampoo out.
Gray is blended away. The look of my natural color is back in 5 minutes. That was me, and it won't fade or wash out.
My hair takes forever, but you look great in just 5 minutes.
The look of your natural color in just 5 minutes with Just for Men.
Polyshades by Minwax. It's a stroke of genius. Polyshades is rich stain and polyurethane protection in one. Polyshades gives wood a beautiful protective finish in half the time. Polyshades by Minwax.
What would it take to get you to change from Advil or Tylenol? How about new Bear Plus? Bear Plus has Bear Aspirin for powerful pain relief and Stomach Guard to help prevent stomach upset. So bang pain back with new Bear Plus. Tough on pain, gentle on your stomach.
As we have come to expect, the Iraqi version of what is happening on the battlefield is considerably different than that of the U.S. or the other Allied forces. But in Baghdad today, no matter what you heard on the radio or read in the newspapers, there was one message about the war you couldn't miss. All you had to do was look up. ABC's Bill Blakemore is there.
After a night of fierce bombing on their city, the people of Baghdad woke to find the wind had picked up, changed direction, and was bringing in from the southwest a thick, moist fog mixed with black oil smoke. Wherever you looked, there was dark, dirty gray. We've never seen anything like this before, Iraqis told us, as they also tried to figure out what was happening to their forces down in Kuwait. Iraqi newspapers had headlines like, "They've advanced and we're mowing them down." Baghdad radio today said all new Allied advances had been driven back, inflicting heavy casualties. At Good News, the Ministry of Information translators had this reaction. Descriptive Iraqi communiques were translated for journalists.
The enemy forces fled, leaving tanks and machinery burning.
Iraqis can also pick up Voice of America and British Broadcasting on their radios, which give a very different account.
The news are very, very conflicting. But I think the Western media are not giving the correct news. They are meeting very stiff resistance in Kuwait, and things are not going as steady as they think.
Who do they think will win?
Win? Iraq. I am sure.
Well, nobody knows. That's only God knows. This is a war.
By midday, most people had run their wartime errands and made their quick visits. But they were still trying to figure out what to make of this new kind of bad air. All afternoon here, it's been like twilight, as if the sun had already set. There's an oily smell in the air. We've had no way here in Baghdad to tell exactly where this pollution is coming from. People here just believe that it's coming somehow from the war. Dark skies for dark days, some Iraqis told us. And tonight, when the Allied bombing started again, we could hear it, but we could barely see it. Bill Blakemore, ABC News in Baghdad.
We'll have more news in a moment.
say home by 11, I don't mean an hour later.
But, Daddy...
Another Maalox moment. It's a medical fact. There's no faster therapy known for your stomach acid than Maalox. It's so strong, if you take it now, it starts working now.
Honey, I just can't help worrying about my little girl.
Daddy, I am 16.
Yeah.
Extra strength Maalox Plus. It's a medical fact. There's no faster therapy known. Look for the coupon in Sunday's paper.
On the road, the Infiniti Q45 becomes a living, breathing thing. You feel it work the wind and seize the road. Feel the embrace of leather and luxury. The rarity of a 278 horsepower V8 engine that was born to run. And begin to understand why Road and Track has named it one of the 10 best cars in the world.
Glade Plug-ins keeps on freshening with 30-day refills.
Plug it in, plug it in.
Gently warms to freshen for 30 days. After 30 days, pop in a refill. Plug into freshness with Glade Plug-ins.
Plug it in.
I get this awful sinus pain.
These sinus pain formulas all made news in the 80s. They all have the same medicine. Today's news is Dristan Sinus, the only sinus medicine with ibuprofen.
It relieves my sinus pain wherever it strikes.
New Dristan Sinus.
Our next report tonight comes from Fort Bragg in North Carolina, which has sent a great many men and women to war. It is hard enough for adults with relatives on the front line to deal with the anxieties of the ground war. It is tougher for children. Here's ABC's Al Dale.
This was the first day of school since the ground war began, and students at Westover High in Fayetteville, home of the 82nd Airborne Division, knew their fathers and brothers were in the thick of the action. The flag-raising ceremony suddenly became more important.
Forward, march!
The ROTC drill became sharper as their thoughts turned to what was happening to their parents in the desert.
When you hear about paratroopers jumping into Kuwait, you wonder whether it's your dad or not, or who it is. And when you hear that there's a certain amount of people dead, you wonder, things just go through your mind.
The war is always on their minds. They study it in class, too.
The Charlotte Observer. Allies invade. Time runs out.
Over the past 6 months, grades have sometimes suffered as worries have deepened.
And I've been kind of messing around trying to get it off my mind, and then my grades dropped, so I've basically had some problems.
Some of my grades have dropped, but I'm trying to keep them up because my mom keeps telling me, don't worry about me, just keep doing good in school.
It is tough being a teenager anytime, but especially when your father is in a war.
He left in January, so I'm not used to the veteran being gone.
The war is hard on younger children, too.
I want my daddy to come home.
Daycare teachers say children are getting more restless as war and uncertainty drag on.
Maybe a little bit moody, a lot of crying. Some of them tend to maybe fight a little bit more.
So they try to give them special attention, extra hugs and hand-holding, all of which will become more important in the days ahead. Al Dale, ABC News, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
When we continue with our special edition of ABC World News Tonight, on most of these stations we'll have a report on the battle to destroy Iraq's most effective tanks and troops.
Tonight on Nightline, another day of major battlefield losses for Iraq and a report that Saddam orders a retreat. We'll have the latest from the Gulf tonight.
And now, the news continues with Channel 2 News at 6.
Good evening, everyone.